October 2025, a 23-year-old woman sits in front of cameras after her second WNBA season just ended. She's been named Rookie of the Year. She's shattered attendance records. Television ratings for her games have demolished previous benchmarks. She's on magazine covers. She's brought more eyeballs to women's basketball than arguably anyone in history. And the internet wants her destroyed, not criticized, not debated, destroyed. Her name is Caitlin Clark. And depending on who you ask, she's either the savior of women's basketball or the most divisive figure the sport has ever seen. But here's what's eating at me, what keeps me up at night scrolling through these comment sections. What did she actually do, like specifically? What actions did Caitlin Clark take that justify the tidal wave of hatred? And yes, it's hatred that follows her everywhere. The answer is going to make you uncomfortable, because it has less to do with Caitlin Clark herself and everything to do with us. Buckle up. Let's roll back the tape to where this really started. And no, it's not 2024 when Clark entered the WNBA, it's April 2023, the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, LSU versus Iowa, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. The game itself was electric, but what everyone remembers is the final minute. LSU is demolishing Iowa. The game is over. And Angel Reese, confident, dominant, unapologetic, walks past Caitlin Clark and flashes the "you can't see me" gesture, pointing to her ring finger, taunting. The internet exploded. Now here's where it gets interesting. Clark herself had done similar gestures earlier in the tournament. She'd been cocky, talked trash, celebrated with swagger. But when Reese did it back, the reaction was different. Some called Reese classless. Others rushed to her defense, pointing out the obvious double standard. Racial undertones in the discourse became impossible to ignore. And just like that, before either of them ever played a single WNBA game, the narrative was set. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese weren't just basketball players, they were symbols, representatives of opposing sides in a culture war they never asked to fight. Fast forward 1 year, 2024, Elite 8 rematch. Iowa versus LSU again. This time, Clark gets her revenge. 41 points, 12 assists. Iowa wins. Clark and Iowa advance. The rivalry is now cemented. The media machine is salivating. And the television numbers, the 2024 championship game featuring Clark, drew 12.3 million viewers, the most watched women's college basketball game in history. Both of them. Clark and Reese enter the WNBA as the most hyped rookies the league has ever seen. This should be a celebration, right? Two generational talents elevating the sport together. Yeah, that's not what happened. Let's talk about Angel Reese for a minute, because if we're trying to understand the Caitlin Clark controversy, we have to understand Angel's side of this. May 2024, Reese is asked about the WNBA's ratings explosion, and she says something that's going to follow her forever. I'll look back in 20 years and be like, the reason why we're watching women's basketball is not just because of one person, it's because of me too. I want you all to realize that. The backlash was immediate. Clark fans accused Reese of being jealous, of trying to steal credit, of being bitter. But let's be honest for a second. Was she wrong? Angel Reese was the one who beat Clark in 2023. She was the reigning national champion. She brought her own fan base, her own style, her own narrative. The LSU-Iowa rivalry that captivated the nation, that takes two people. You can't have a rivalry with just one person. Reese was making a valid point. The growth of women's basketball wasn't a solo act. It was a collection of talented players, herself, Kamilla Cardoso, Cameron Brink, Rickea Jackson, and yes, Caitlin Clark, all elevating the game together. But the narrative had already been written. The media had crowned Clark as the one, the savior, the transcendent star. And when Reese pushed back against that narrative, she was cast as the villain. And here's where it gets dark. Both players dealt with horrific online harassment, but the nature of it was different. Clark's haters came after her basketball, her perceived privilege, her fan base. Reese's haters, they went somewhere much uglier. Death threats, racist comments, AI-generated explicit images sent to her and her family. Even DeJohna Carrington, the player involved in the infamous eye poke incident with Clark, received death threats and racist harassment, even after both players said it was clearly accidental. The toxicity wasn't just about basketball anymore. It had morphed into something poisonous, and both Clark and Reese were drowning in it. 2024 WNBA season. Clark enters as the #1 overall pick with the Indiana Fever. The hype is stratospheric. Every game she plays is dissected frame by frame, and from day one the physical play against her is intense. Now let's be clear, the WNBA has always been physical. Veterans have always tested rookies. This is not new. But with Clark, the scrutiny was different because the cameras were always rolling. Every hard foul became a viral moment. Every questionable play became evidence in an ongoing trial. The Fever and Sky faced each other 4 times in 2024. The intensity was palpable. During one game, Clark committed a hard foul on Reese. During another, there was a flagrant foul that had people screaming about intent. Clark herself tried to downplay it, calling it a basketball play. But the narrative had taken on a life of its own. Then came September 2024, Connecticut Sun, playoff game. Dejanai Carrington's fingers hit Clark directly in the eye. The conspiracy theories were instant. Was it intentional? Was there a coordinated effort to hurt Clark? Was the league protecting her? The discourse became so toxic that both players had to address it publicly. Clark ends her rookie season with Rookie of the Year honours, almost unanimous. One person left her off the ballot entirely, a decision that sparked its own controversy. And through all of this, Caitlin Clark mostly kept her head down. Didn't feed the drama, didn't throw anyone under the bus, just played basketball. But the circus around her, that never stopped. Now we're in 2025, Clark's second season. And if you thought things would calm down, oh boy were you wrong. Time magazine names Clark Athlete of the Year, an incredible honour that puts her alongside legends like Lionel Messi. You'd think this would be universally celebrated within the WNBA community. More visibility, more legitimacy, more respect for women's basketball. Instead, crickets from much of the league. Some subtle shade, whispers that other players deserve consideration. Then September 2025 hits like a bomb. Minnesota Lynx star Napheesa Collier, 5-time All-Star, one of the league's most respected voices, holds a press conference, and she absolutely unloads on WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Right now, we have the worst leadership in the world. Collier reveals that back in February, Commissioner Engelbert allegedly told her that Caitlin Clark should be grateful for the treatment she was receiving. The implication that despite everything, despite the physical play, the scrutiny, the harassment, Clark should just shut up and be thankful for the attention. The WNBA world erupts. Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham calls Engelbert a delusional leader. Other players pile on. The league is in full-blown crisis mode. And Caitlin Clark, 2 days later, she addresses it carefully. I have great respect for Fee. I think she made a lot of very valid points. She talks about leadership, about relationships, about how this is the most important moment in this league's history. And then she drops this bomb. Commissioner Engelbert hasn't reached out to her since the controversy went public. The most marketable player in WNBA history, the person credited with bringing unprecedented attention to the league, and the commissioner hasn't picked up the phone. Let that sink in. Nobody is really mad at Caitlin Clark, they're mad at what her success represents. For Angel Reese and players like her, Clark's meteoric rise represents a painful reality. That sometimes, despite your talent, despite your championships, despite everything you do, someone else gets the spotlight. And the factors determining who gets that spotlight aren't always fair or just. For WNBA veterans who've been grinding for decades, Clark represents the frustration of watching one player bring attention that their entire careers couldn't generate. It's not Clark's fault, she didn't ask for this, but the resentment is human and understandable. For the league's leadership, Clark represents their own spectacular failure. They had decades to build the WNBA into a cultural force. They didn't. Then a college player did it, almost by accident, and now they're scrambling to manage a moment they're completely unprepared for. You want to know who the villain of this story is? It's not Caitlin Clark, it's not Angel Reese, it's not the veterans who've been physical with her, it's not even the toxic fans, though they're certainly part of the problem. The villain is the structural dysfunction of the WNBA itself, a league that didn't know how to market its incredible talent until one player forced them to pay attention. A leadership that apparently told its most valuable asset to be grateful instead of protecting her. A system that pits talented women against each other for scraps of attention instead of lifting everyone up. A media ecosystem that profits from manufactured beef instead of celebrating the sport. Clark has missed 14 games in the 2025 season. Quad sprains, groin strains, various injuries. And whether all of those are just bad luck or the result of insufficient protection is a question the league should be asking itself. Because here's the thing, if the WNBA fumbles this moment, if they waste the unprecedented attention that Clark, Reese, and their entire generation has brought, there might not be another chance like this. Caitlin Clark isn't a hero or a villain. She's not a victim or a problem. She's a 23-year-old woman who's really good at basketball, caught in the crossfire of institutional failure, cultural tension, and a league desperately trying to figure out how to capitalize on a moment they never saw coming. Everyone's mad at Caitlin Clark, but they're not really mad at Caitlin Clark. They're mad at a system that makes greatness feel like a zero-sum game. They're mad at leadership that can't navigate success. They're mad at disparities in attention and opportunity that have nothing to do with talent. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we stop making Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese carry the weight of problems they didn't create. Because the real story here isn't about rivalry or jealousy or controversy. It's about a broken system finally being exposed and two young women who just want to play basketball.